Hello and welcome to our advanced guide to Trebuchet use. Check back to our previous episode for the basics as well as some useful tips and simple tactics. The link is in the description below. In today's episode we're focused on the more complex tactics of Trebuchet control, avoiding incoming Trebuchet damage when you're out in the field or using your own to your advantage, as well as some tips and tactics for destroying the opposition's Trebuchet. So first up I'll just cover the Trebuchet stats so you know them. The damage ranges between 8 and 12,000 and this depends on the target's armour. You can generally expect around 10k damage on most targets. The Trebuchet has 15,000 HP. A good sized health pool but a burst direct damage build will eat through this fast, but do bear in mind that condition damage will have no effect on it and it's not possible to crit on the Trebuchet. It takes 10 seconds to turn the Trebuchet from the farthest point on the mansion to the farthest point on the windmill and vice versa. This gives you a good gauge of the amount of time it's going to take you to line up a shot. Now, there are a few tactics you can use while on the Trebuchet to help support your team more than just simply firing it. Some of these we covered in the previous episode, but I want to go more in depth in them here. Scouting is at the core of nearly all these Trebuchet tactics, and knowing where your enemy is can be hugely important to your team. So when you're firing your Trebuchet, you need to be panning your camera left and right and letting your team know about the movements of the opposition. This allows your team to react faster and counter any big moves the enemy might make. Many of the things you can counter with the Trebuchet involve enemy roamers along with a defender collapsing on a node to pick up a secure kill and a cap. This is a hard thing to counter on other maps unless you get lucky and scout it out early, but on Kyhlo the Trebuchet can be used to rain down on the node to make it harder for them to cap it. Also keep an eye on the enemy Trebuchet as well. It's not your highest priority as your near point defender will have a better view of the Trebuchet, but you'll be able to see where their shots are landing and you can keep your team informed if one of them is going to be running into trouble. Map control is also a key part of Trebuchet control. Being able to control the map and force players away from choke points is an important role as it can force the enemy to take longer routes around the map. This is something that will come with practice, but a simple example is firing shots quickly into the courtyard in front of your Trebuchet. Doing this can slow players down who are trying to get to you, those headed up to the clock tower, or those headed to the other side node. This is a high traffic zone and you can lock it down very easily and slow players down and often kill them within this firing area. Another note in map control is destroying terrain. Certain areas of the map can be destroyed and this opens up or closes up routes around the map. These have little to no effect on the actual time it takes for a player to run from one point to another, but they do give more options. Unless you have a pre-planned reason for destroying a part of the terrain, I wouldn't waste a shot as it's more of a gimmick than anything else. Now I wanted to talk about defending yourself against incoming Trebuchet fire when you're out in the field. If a Trebuchet shot is fired in your direction, you'll hear a soldier shout of Trebuchet or incoming, and this gives you an early warning of the incoming shot. When it lands, it will deal damage depending on your toughness and cause a knockback. This happens in a very large AoE and does not have any friendly fire. Sounds pretty tough to counter, but it is possible. Firstly, knowing where to stand is important. When you're on any node, you need to be as far away from the Trebuchet as possible. The shots are charged, and therefore the longer they have to charge it to get the shot near you, the slower the rate of fire. So if you're on an uncontested node being shelled, try to stand at the maximum range. Secondly, you can dodge Trebuchet shots. This is tough in combat with another player of course, but it's a valid tactic as your endurance will recharge enough between shots to allow you to dodge the next one. This works on any of the nodes but it's hardest on the clock tower where the shots come faster. As mentioned, this is tougher while in combat and there's very little in the way of tips I can give you for this situation from a defender's point of view, except that including a stun breaker in your build can be important, as if you're locked down, avoiding any incoming Trebuchet shots becomes nearly impossible. Building high toughness of at least 18k HP is also important to avoid being destroyed, and stability will help counter the knockback effect, but you will still take any incoming damage. Some good example builds for this are Captain Hammer Warrior builds, Defensive Shout Guardians and the Healing Bomb Engineer. Now from the other point of view, if you're attacking a node with support from your Trebuchet user, you want to be trying to bring some really good CC with you and if it's possible a good length for mobilise. If you're able to lock them in place so they can't dodge the Trebuchet, you bring them down faster. This of course means your personal damage takes a step back and having enough CC to hold your target down while having the survivability not to die is more important. You still need some damage but a glass cannon build will get destroyed fast. Good example builds for this are Burst Hammer and Bleeding Hammer Warrior builds we covered last season. Lastly, when you're attacking the enemy Trebuchet there are a few things to bear in mind. If it's a Mesmer on the Treb, they will likely use the portal tactic we covered in our guide to portals. To counter this, either destroy the Trebuchet completely and then let them teleport back and destroy it again, a tactic that's used by most roamers, or if you're a roaming Mesmer, counter it by taking the Trebuchet to nearly destroyed, place a portal of your own and then go back to roaming. When they return to the Trebuchet, you two can portal back and finish it off. Knocking players back off the ledges is an important tactic in Trebuchet fights, and using ground target teleportation skills can be of help to get you up there faster. Check out our Infiltrator Arrow guide linked below for more info on this. Never roam too far from the Trebuchet as it's your main priority. Spawn camping can be a good way to spend time between destroying the Trebuchet user, especially if you can lock down the Trebuchet user himself in the spawn. And if you're heading towards a manned Trebuchet, try to avoid the courtyard area in front of the clock tower, or pass through it very quickly and dodge any incoming fire. So I hope you enjoyed this advanced guide to the Trebuchet, and leave any comments below if you have any good Trebuchet tricks you'd like to share. Don't forget to subscribe and have a good day.